Hello and welcome once again to another Patreon video minisode. This is minisode number 8 here for June 8th, 2021. Another year of our Lord. That's Donnie. That's Professor Smoke. I'm Josh. Will couldn't be with us. He's on assignment yet again. So today's going to be the big debut of the new segment that we're going to have at least once a week. It's going to be called the Library of the Professor, and we'll toss to that here in just a minute. But I guess we should probably get a few other housekeeping items out of the way before we do that. Just yesterday, episode 60 came out. You know, wherever you get your fine podcast dispensed. Episode 60, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. It just came out this past weekend. We just did the episode that dropped yesterday at 6 o'clock East. So if you want to hear our thoughts about that movie, go check that episode out. Like I said, you can get that anywhere, pretty much, I guess, anywhere that you normally get your podcast. You should be able to find it by now. Also coming up, it's fast approaching, Monday, June 21st, which will actually be our next episode, regular episode of the podcast, episode 61. That will be the first episode of our new Summer of the Wolf series that will take us all the way through the end of August. So that'll be kind of the main event this summer. Come hang out with the cool kids.
Yeah, this is our WrestleMania.
Yeah. Well, our WrestleMania is October.
It's October. Yeah.
This is more like our SummerSlam.
Like Starcade.
Yeah, Starcade. Yeah. Oh Lord.
We'll start teasing and start talking a little bit more next week. We'll start talking about some of the actual titles that we have lined up.
Yep.
Still got some stuff going back and forth, but I think we've got a pretty good lineup of stuff coming up all summer. And basically what that is, Summer of the Wolf is pretty self-explanatory. But if you don't get it, it's basically just going to be all about werewolf movies. Some of the best, some that we all haven't seen. A fine mix, all through the summer of classic werewolf movies. So that'll kind of be the running theme. And we'll also have some other special video minisodes, here every Tuesday and Thursday on Patreon, dedicated and connected to what's going on over on the, on the mothership, the podcast. So look forward to the Summer of Wolf series coming up this summer. I guess without further ado, we'll go ahead and toss to our newest segment.
And now it's time for a curated selection from the Library of the Professor.
All right, welcome to the first true episode of Library of the Professor. Last Thursday we did the actual first episode, which is just me talking about what the show is going to be. So here's the first thing off the Professor's shelf. So let's see what we got here.
What selection have you found for us?
Yes, this is a beauty. It is, well, according to this VHS, it was called Return of the Aliens Deadly Spawn. Now, really, the filmmakers released this as the Devil's, I'm sorry, not the Devil's Spawn, the Deadly Spawn in 1983, but the distributor decided that wasn't that wasn't going to sell as many copies, so he thought, I'll tack on Return of the Aliens Deadly Spawn, and we can cash in on the fact that people will mistake this for a sequel to Alien. So, if you rented this back in, this VHS came out in 1985 from Continental Video. If you rented this back then, though, and you watched this, you sure as hell were not going to mistake it for a sequel to Ridley Scott's Alien, that's for sure. But it was enjoyable, for sure. It's definitely no Alien. This is a micro-budget, regional-type horror movie. It is a fun one, though. It's you can see a little beastie right here. He's not very animated in the movie. His stalks move and all that stuff. But one thing it definitely has going for it is gore. It's got a hell of a high splatter level, and it's also, even though it's trying to cash in on Alien, it's actually more of an homage to 50s horror sci-fi movies. I think so, anyway, more so than a ripoff of Alien. But it was directed by Dave McEwen, and his name might not be as big as the producer's name, at least within micro-budget regional horror movies. Ted Bohas produced it, and his name is attached to a string of crapster pieces. Not the least of which is the Night Beast. I don't know if either of y'all have seen the Night Beast before. But if we don't get to that on the actual show at some point down the road, it'll definitely be on the Library of the Professor at some point coming up. So also here is the DVD. This was put out by Synapse Films on DVD. I'm not sure if there's been a Blu-ray or whatever release of it. This came out a few years back, so I'm sure somebody probably put it out on Blu-ray. But also, although I did try to find it streaming, and I cannot find any. Surprisingly, there's no streaming service carrying Return of the Aliens: Deadly Spawn.
Whoa!
There.
Old Trashter's theater.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, this particular VHS. Let's see if I can get my lighting right. The old Blockbuster video bin. I bought it back in like the early '90s out of the used bin at Blockbuster for like $5, and I mean they cut the box up back then. Like if this was a full size big box, they cut it and stuck it on this red cardboard thing. But yeah, I've had this.
Hey, man, that box is enormous. So yeah, it must be because it's all cut out like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the actual big box was pretty much the size. It's actually thinner than the big box was. So if you're talking about, let me for shits and giggles, here is a movie. Here's a big box that this would have been in. It's wider.
Yeah, that's
they cut it and stuck it. I don't know why you would. Most of the time, video stores, they cut these boxes up and put them in a smaller box because they make more room on the video store shelves. Yeah. Why you would cut up a big box and put it on something that's just as big as slightly bigger, the original big box, I don't know. But Blockbuster did it. So.
And that's why Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore.
Well, actually, there is one.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That one, Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was down in Texas, there was a lone Blockbuster down there. Now, of course, Blockbuster as a corporation is going out of business, so this was a privately owned one like that other one that exists now, since Blockbuster itself is not really a corporate entity anymore. Privately owned Blockbusters were still open, but I think that one you were talking about is the only one, and I can't remember where that's at. But that one in Texas I was talking about closed a few years back. So yes, that will do it, I guess, for the first episode of, well, technically the second episode, if you minus the introductory, last Thursday, of the Library of the Professor. So go up, seek out Return of the Aliens: Deadly Spawn. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'll give you my star rating, and I'll give you kind of like we do on the show. Like I said, at some point we may get to this on the show. I mean, it is a fun one, but somewhere down the road. So I'll go ahead and give you what my star rating was and what the gore score was. So the star rating I'm going for on this one is I'll give it 3 stars. I mean, I really enjoy it. It's cheap, it's cheesy, but it's fun, entertaining, keeps you entertained through the whole film. It's definitely got a vibe of like you can get your friends together with some alcohol and have some fun with it. or whatever you want to imbibe.
Yeah.
And gore score, it's pretty high up there. I'm gonna give it a 7.5 on the gore score. So yeah, it's pretty good. It's cheesy, like sort of Herschel Gordon Lewis type gore, We're not talking about realistic effects, but there's a copious amount of it. So yeah, 7.5 on the gore score and a 3 for the movie rating itself. That'll do it for this episode.
Come back next time for another curated selection from the Library of the Professor.
Well, there you go. Thanks for the first real installment of of your curated selection.
That was cool, man. Yeah, I like how you brought forth the gore score and the star rating. Yeah,
and it'll leave it wide open too for whenever we finally do get around to it on on our episodes. You can kind of adjust your own score, obviously.
Yeah.
So either way, we can refer back to this. So thanks for that. Donnie, did you scour the internet for any news or anything noteworthy this time?
Was it Neil Blomkamp, director of District 9? He has a new release coming out actually in late August. It's a supernatural horror movie called Demonic. The trailer dropped on June 3rd. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it looks pretty interesting. But yeah, Neil Blomkamp, that's a name that, and was it, he did District 9 and then Elysium, and then Chappie. But after Chappie, he just did a shit ton of shorts. So Chappie dropped in like 2015, and the last 5 years, he's just been doing a whole bunch of short films, and then came out with this new horror movie called Demonic. So definitely should be interesting to to check out.
I remember enjoying District 9 when that came out, but I never watched Chappie.
Chappie
I remember it, but I never watched it.
Yeah, Chappie was more of a.
I'm actually the other way around. I've seen Chappie, but I haven't seen District 9, believe it or not, and I don't know why I haven't.
Yeah, that
one. Man, that one you got to check out.
Yeah, definitely.
That's Spookshow worthy, I'd say, for sure. Like,
yeah, I would say
that's probably another one I might hold off on a little bit until, because like I said, we've mentioned it before. I haven't ever seen any of the Paranormal Activity movies.
Oh yeah. I would say after the first one, you could probably skip the rest. No, but yeah, Chappie was more of a, I'd say maybe a live action Wall-E, just kind of like, it's not as,
I remember Wall-E being pretty fucking depressing too. So for a Pixar movie,
yeah,
whatever,
but no, yeah, like it should be, definitely interesting to check out. The only other thing I found was that we talk about not just horror movie, but cult movies as well. Toxic Avenger is getting a reboot. Yeah, Toxic Avenger is getting a reboot. Elijah Wood is set to star in that along with Peter Dinklage. It's going to be written and directed by Macon Blair. Couldn't really find a whole lot on Macon Blair. He's known mostly as an actor. He was in I Care a Lot for Netflix and Logan Lucky. He has 4 directing credits on IMDb. And 9 writing credits. He wrote and directed I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, which actually also starred Elijah Wood, and I believe he acted in it as well. Macon Blair did.
It sounds like it's got some decent talent behind it, so we'll see.
Yeah, well, there's been some decent, talented movies that have come out that have just turned to absolute shit.
And it's not like you can make something like the Toxic Avenger any worse, right? I mean, like it was kind of cheesy on purpose, such as trauma movies are.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, that's what I've got. On the headlines.
So is I don't know if they announced this yet, but who's producing that? It's not Trauma though, right? This is like a bigger production studio. That's
Let me find that real quick.
Because that'd be an interesting thing that you would never. I mean, even Trauma wouldn't have believed that. Like, say 30 years down the road, some big studio is gonna be remaking Toxic Avenger. That Lloyd Kaufman be like, what the fuck?
Other than maybe some rights or something, dude, there is no way they have anything to do with that. Because unless Elijah Wood's doing it for free.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was like. So be there. It's like, because Elijah Wood's doing it, then I doubt that it's being produced by Trauma. But just the whole weird irony of the situation of a Trauma film being remade by a bigger studio or whatever.
And imagine it. Well, I mean, I know Toxic Avenger is probably their most successful single movie. Probably. I mean,
it's like their flagship movie, basically.
Yeah. But could you imagine if this leads to like a whole string of remakes, like big studio remakes for trauma movies?
So Lloyd Kaufman, who actually wrote the original characters,
he is trauma.
Yeah. So he is tied to producing the. Toxic Avenger
that doesn't surprise me if he's like a producer, but I seriously doubt it would have that Trump logo on the front of it.
Yeah.
No way. I'll believe that.
Also, at this point too, while we're still talking about cult films, I need to do a correction already on this episode of Library of the Professor. I think I said Dave McEwen was the director. It's Douglas McEwen, the director of Return of the Aliens and the Spawn. I need to get that right before I get, Spookshow hating.
Like, what the hell, man? What the? that one other guy that knows about that movie might be pissed. But yeah, just based on your recommendations there, I definitely want to check that out. We need to get to that one sooner or later.
Oh yeah, and that other Ted Bohas movie, Night Beast. We might even need to get the Night Beast before. I don't know. I don't know if we need to do this or that one first. I had to think about it.
Yeah, right in the middle.
One needs to lead into the other one, you know.
Right in the middle of the Summer of the Wolf, we just throw down and watch that instead. No, we've got everything lined up. We're good until September, so we'll see. Before we get out of here, I'll go ahead and mention a couple of movies that are coming out, here over the next few days or so. Literally released today, like I mentioned last week. The Stylist came out on DVD, and Benny Loves You came out on Blu-ray. This Friday on video on demand is a movie called Queen of Spades. And also this Friday, two other films, Censor, which is, I guess, being released in limited release. I'm assuming that means theaters. And then definitely in theaters is The House Next Door, Meet the Blacks 2. I don't know anything about that one. So, and then next week on, I'll just go ahead and mention next Tuesday, the 15th, Godzilla vs. Kong is coming out on DVD. So that's a fairly quick turnaround for that. But then again, it has been, came out in March, I think. So it has been a little while since that came out. Yeah. So that's probably about right. But all right, I guess that's, did you guys have anything else we needed to mention before we get out? I think otherwise we can wrap it up, right?
Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to kind of mention that, yesterday being June 7th was the 6th anniversary of Christopher Lee's death. He died June 7th, 2015. He was 93 when he passed. And
he pretty much worked damn near till the end, too. Like, he was in stuff.
Yeah.
He might have worked pretty much to the bitter end. I mean, he was still making major, had roles in major films all the way up past the age of 90. So,
yep.
Like I think we mentioned in a previous minisode, one of the pillars of the horror community for sure.
Yeah, horror icon. Yeah, no doubt.
All right, so for Will and for Donnie and the Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are the All American Spook Show podcast. Go check out episode 60, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Just came out yesterday, and we'll talk to you again on Thursday.
See ya.
Later.